I certainly vehemently disagree with the fact that Dad would have been MAGA. That's just not true. Dad was for, a better system that did create opportunity and options for all.
How concerned are you? How concerned should Americans and indeed friends of America be about the state of your country right now?
Well, I think that anybody should be concerned, not just about the United States, but really about the world and the division that exists within the world. The fact that there are conflicts everywhere, not just the Middle East, which is critically important, or in the Ukraine, but there are conflicts on the African continent, in the Congo. There is a conflict in the Sudan, and there are conflicts in about 27 or 28 other countries in the world. That because it is not promoted on Western media, maybe some social media, we do hear a little bit about it, but our focus is very narrow and central. And I think that if we as a world community want to survive and thrive, we must find ways to live together without destroying a person or property. So I'll say yes, the United States is a crucial and critical leader in this global struggle, starting with domestically how we treat our fellow human being, which is at an abominable rate.
Yeah.
And not to be negative, I want to characterize it as realistic.
Well, you have to call it like it is, Dr. King, don't you?
Yeah,
and let's think about what you've said. You've talked about some parts of the developing world where people have very little, and you can understand why, sadly, conflicts become very nasty, very bloody, and internecine. Whereas you are speaking to us from a land of plenty, the shining city on a hill, the largest economy, the greatest army. This is supposed to be the American century. So if you are from a land of plenty, why the hatred? Why the division? Why does it run so deep? You have everything.
Well, yeah, it's relative. We've got hundreds of thousands of people, I should say, that are living on the streets of America, in the most wealthiest country in the world. We've got people who feel like they're not getting their fair share. These are legitimate issues. If you compare it to the rest of the world, it feels a little unbalanced. And that's a very good question. Why are these divisions existing? Part of it is because division is being sold for a specific reason, and that is to divide the voters. Our former President Trump, always advocates and shares seeds of division, and it's only for one reason, because if he can divide enough of the population, he can potentially become the president again. We have to figure out how to not let that happen. I used to say, we have to vote like we've never voted before. I'm very concerned because, as you started off saying, there's a poll today that we haven't seen in a while where the President Biden is leading. But many polls show it's the lowest approval rates ever. And it's going to be a challenge race. Mm-hmm. And so from my perspective, I am always doing all I can to bring people together. We've got to find a way to protect, preserve, and expand democracy. And that is not supporting a fascist who President Trump purports to be.
Dr. King, it's interesting you talk about being somebody who wants to bring people together. That's religion, religare, to bind together. That's the whole point, isn't it? But if you look at the evangelicals, particularly white evangelicals, they're all in, they're all dialed in on President Trump, over 80%. They believe he is the anointed one. I'm wondering how you as a man of faith respond to that, and what do black Christians, black evangelicals in the States who are about faith and family, sometimes limited government, what do they want to see? Do they support Trump?
Well, number one, we're not a monolithic community, the African-American community, nor are we a monolithic nation, obviously. So there is diversity. Some would be not supporting, and maybe even many. And there are others who have just come on board and are supporting, other individuals who come on board and are supporting the former president. But it's perplexing to understand how an evangelical community would support a person to be the leader who doesn't even go to church, at least rarely. Uh, the way he held the Bible upside down in his first administration, which is a holy book for us. Many of us, those of us who are Christian, there also is the Torah and the Quran in terms of the monotheistic religion. So, but a man who doesn't appear to be a man of God, but yet you are anointing him because maybe there's one or two issues that he advocates for. But I think we have to look at the whole. We have to look at humanity is got to learn how to live together without destroying personal property. My dad would say, we must learn nonviolence or we will face non-existence. It feels like some are choosing that road unknowingly. They don't realize that's where it's going to go. But more people, I think there are far more people who support good than support that which is not good. And the fact is, how do you organize, mobilize, bring all those people together so that they will participate? If human beings in the United States, women and men and families, individuals come out on election day, I don't believe the former president can win. But if people just stay at home, become complacent, then there's a possibility that the former president will become president again.
Well, people need to be given something to fight for, to come out for, to vote for. And isn't the issue, the problem with the current president, that people, particularly young people, young minorities, some women, don't feel he's done enough for them to say, yes, we want 4 more years of you, even though you'll be 82, 83, 84, 85?
Oh, certainly. That is a problem. I think what is the other challenge is the many amazing things that the administration has done. They are not, for whatever reason, it is not getting out to the masses of people. Because I think if the people understood under the circumstances what the administration has done, there would be a desire to engage. And I also think as we're getting more and more focused, it still is not totally focused because it's still a few months out. It's not a long way. But as people get more and more focused and as the nominees emerge to the positions of one candidate against the other, when people have to make a choice, I think there's going to be an alarm of some sounding that says, we want to protect, preserve, and expand democracy. We're not interested in someone who's going to take us in a direction, who wants to be a king or wants to be a dictator. That's not the American way. But it is an organizing and a mobilizing job. Some would say, well, I won't go there. I'll let you ask questions.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering what you were going to say there, Dr. King. Martin Luther King Day fell on Monday, the 15th of January, so less than 2 weeks ago this year. And every year, the voices on the right, sometimes the extreme right, who claim the mantle of your late father, who claim to have walk in his footsteps, they get louder and louder and bolder and bolder. I give you people like the recent Republican nominee Vivek Ramaswamy, or the Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who say that people like you are the racist now because your father talked about it's about the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And they say that you are focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, and race. And as a result, you're putting white people down and you're over-focusing on color. How do you respond to that borrowing of your father's name and his words?
So I have to always push back when people interpret those words as if they are intact today. In other words, my father's dream was about what could become for communities of color, for poor people. We just hadn't arrived yet. So, and then when you make diversity negative, when every ethnic group in this nation, what this nation represents is a multicultural mosaic. And what makes this nation potentially great is the different people who come to the table with different perspectives. So for you to have a perspective of, well, diversity equity and inclusion is bad says that you don't even understand who your own country is. Whether no matter who's saying it. And to me, while you are trying to portray something that's not true, it is said somewhere that ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So you are operating in a space of things that are yet not true. It doesn't mean we won't get there, but we're not there yet. Dad's dream is not nearly fulfilled for masses of people. There are certainly individuals who've achieved all that they want to, a number of them, but the masses of people are still suffering. In the African American community, there's a disproportionate number of Blacks who are have undecent health care, who are impoverished, who do not have jobs, who do not have appropriate education, and the list goes on and on.
But how do you respond, Dr. King, to a MAGA Republican who sees Trump as the person who's going to make America great again, who doesn't have a job, who's on fentanyl, who feels that he or she is losing something, and when they hear you say peace, justice, and equity must be our rallying cry, they see Claudine Gay, not themselves. They don't think you're talking about them. How do you make them feel included in your picture of inclusion? Because right now they don't, which is why they go for Trump.
Well, what that says to me is you're choosing to embrace your fears and not your faith. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean spiritual. I don't mean religiousness, faith. I'm talking about something bigger than your religion, something bigger than yourself. Most voters vote what they believe is in their interest. And they have been programmed by social media, some by traditional network news. If you're looking at Fox News, people tell me every day, well, Fox is, well, weekly, it's fair and balanced. Well, why do you say that? Because that's what they tell you every day. But if you have an independent mind and an ability to think, ration, and reason, you can say, well, no, that's just not true. Fox is a business, just as all the networks are. And their first obligation is to make money and get market share. So they will say and do anything for that. They're not really giving you the information, just presenting it and letting you come to your conclusions. They're telling you what they think you want to hear, and that's what you embrace. That's really what President Trump does. He tells you what he thinks you want to hear, and they say, yeah, that sounds good. But it is not a formula that will survive and be sustainable. It might work for a day or two, but at the end of the day, until you find a way to include all people and create a fair level of a playing field, not a playing field that works for some and doesn't work for others. That has to be first of all, you have to want to be engaged. You can't just tell somebody you ought to do this, but you can invite them to the table and say, let's have dialogue. There may just be one issue we agree on, but we start from there and build on to get to others. But we're not even starting there. We're starting off as if we're just separate and we can't come together.
Yeah.
I choose to disagree with that and believe that humanity can come together and address any problem that we have.
In your tweet, you said history is being erased in classrooms. You've got people today saying that if your father were still alive, he would be a MAGA Republican, America first. When you hear that, do you lose hope or do you feel galvanized? How do you respond?
No, I personally feel that it shows we have a much more significant job to do to bring people together, because there's no way Dad would embrace much of the agenda. There may be something that the MAGA agenda has that he might approach, but by and large, he would not support that because it excludes, it divides, it diminishes, it does not lift up. People want to feel involved and feel that they've been heard and respected with dignity and respect. And when you deal with people with dignity and respect, and as they're human beings, you have a greater opportunity to get their engagement. And so I certainly vehemently disagree with the fact that Dad would have been MAGA. That's just not true. Dad was for, a better system that did create opportunity and options for all.